When Obama refused to tweet, Trump erupted, and America saw two presidents, but only one looked like a leader. When Barack Obama gently reminded the nation that raising one's voice doesn't transform falsehoods into facts, Donald Trump reacted with visible agitation. And from that instant, the stark difference between the two men became impossible to overlook. What was meant to be just another routine town hall, one of countless televised events staged to fill the endless loop of political programming, suddenly shifted. Within moments, viewers sensed that this broadcast would not fade into the usual background noise. The cameras swept across the Phoenix, Arizona studio as the moderator announced an unexpected guest. And there he was, Barack Obama, walking onto the stage with unhurried steps. A ripple of surprise moved through the audience. A few even began to rise to their feet in applause before producers urgently gestured for them to remain seated. His appearance had not been advertised, though whispers had swirled online throughout the day, rumors dismissed by most as social media chatter. Yet now, there he stood, casually dressed in an open-collared shirt and dark blazer, the faintest of smiles playing at his lips, turning what had been an ordinary evening upside down before he even spoke. Across the nation, viewers leaned forward on their couches, lifted phones to capture the moment, and crowded around screens in bars and dorm rooms. The camera cut briefly to Trump, his jaw tight, lips pressed together, reclining in his chair with visible displeasure that the spotlight he expected to dominate was now shared. The moderator, trying to mask the electricity in the air, offered a neutral welcome, but the tension already hummed like static. Obama approached the microphone, adjusted it with deliberate care, and began speaking in that calm, steady cadence Americans remembered well. This evening, he said, was not about him but about the country's needs in a fragile hour, about leadership, accountability, and the consequences when those qualities are neglected. His words were quiet, but the effect was seismic. In living rooms across the Midwest, conversations stopped mid-sentence. In a roadside diner in Texas, a waitress turned up the volume. On campuses in California, students gathered around laptops. In retirement homes in Florida, the common rooms fell silent. Trump shifted again, fussing with his cuff links, glancing sideways but never quite locking eyes with his predecessor. A murmur of history in the making moved through the studio. The first question, pointedly addressed to Trump, invited him to respond to the former president's presence. He forced a practiced smile, saying Barack always loved the spotlight, that the night was supposed to be about him, about his achievements. But fine, let him speak. Obama did not take the provocation. He clasped his hands lightly and waited. The stage was charged not by noise, but by stillness. The two had traded blows before in speeches and interviews, through tweets and press conferences, but never like this. Live, unprepared, unavoidable. One exuded composure. The other, barely restrained irritation. And then, in the first moment that would ricochet across social media, Obama leaned toward the moderator and said softly, "The presidency isn't about grabbing the spotlight. It's about enduring it." That line struck like a hammer on glass. A hush swept the room, broken only by a few hesitant claps and scattered murmurs. Trump's jaw set, his cheeks flushed beneath the hot lights. On Twitter, hashtags erupted. Radio hosts interrupted callers. People texted friends. Turn this on now. What unfolded was no sterile exchange of talking points. It was unscripted, tense, and real, the kind of political theater that reveals character more than policy. Trump, the incumbent, fidgeted and fumed. Obama, the elder statesman now unbound by office, remained poised, drawing a contrast that didn't need to be shouted. Viewers sensed it. One man fought for his image. The other spoke to a sense of civic responsibility many feared had been eroded. The studio crackled with that energy, transmitting it through cameras and into living rooms, truck stops, and dormitory lounges. Only minutes had passed, yet the narrative for tomorrow's headlines had already been etched. But this was only the prologue. Obama had not come to deliver a single clever remark. He was preparing the ground for a deeper reckoning. The lights glinted off the polished floor as the moderator tried to steer the discussion. "Let's talk about leadership in a divided era," she suggested. "Mr. Obama, since you've joined us, why don't you begin?" He didn't rush. He let the pause stretch, glancing briefly at Trump, then back to the audience. And then, in words even quieter than before, He said leadership is not about who can bark the loudest or flood the airwaves with noise. It is about judgment, about patience, about remembering that the office carries the collective trust of an entire nation, not just the cheers of a partisan crowd. Trump's head snapped toward him at that. He leaned into his microphone. Nice words. He sneered. That's what Barack does. He talks. But nobody gets things done like I do. Still, Obama said nothing. His silence was a deliberate rebuke. Viewers noticed. In a coffee shop in Iowa, a veteran muttered to a stranger, "He's rattling Trump without raising his voice." The stranger nodded, eyes locked on the screen. When Obama spoke again, his tone was the same. "When I held that office," he said, "every sentence mattered. Every decision carried weight. You didn't represent your base. You represented all Americans. That duty didn't pause when you were tired, or frustrated, or tempted to lash out online. It was constant." Trump cut in sharply, his voice now elevated. "And under me, this country is stronger than ever. Stronger borders, stronger economy, stronger everything. People don't want lectures. They want results." The moderator raised a hand to regain order, asking Obama to finish his thought. He nodded, a flicker of a smile ghosting across his face, as if Trump had illustrated his point for him, and continued, "Results matter, but how you achieve them matters just as much. Break the people's trust to get your way, and that trust may never return. Treat those you lead with contempt, and that contempt will stain the office long after the applause fades." The weight of that landed. In Texas, in Ohio, in California, viewers felt it. Obama, methodical, unhurried. Trump, reactive, quick to interrupt. High school seniors watching for a civics project whispered comparisons. A teacher against a restless student in the back row. Trump jabbed a finger in the air. "No one's been treated worse than me," he barked. "They attack me every day. And now this? Bringing Barack here. Unfair. A total setup." Obama's gaze held steady. "When you take that oath," he said, "you accept the burden. You accept the criticism. You don't get to call it unfair. You chose it." The split-screen image of that moment, Trump leaning forward, flushed and fuming, Obama upright and calm, would become an instant viral snapshot, replayed endlessly as the embodiment of composure beside volatility. But Obama's calm was not passive. It was strategic, a steadying weight meant to expose the turbulence across from him. With each flash of temper, Trump granted him more authority without Obama having to raise a hand. At a bar in Milwaukee, someone shook his head. "You can't fake that contrast," he said. "One man's leading, the other's just lashing out." Obama concluded that first exchange with a line that hung in the studio air. "The presidency doesn't measure how loudly you can fight. It measures how high you can rise above anger and ego to serve those who depend on you. Not left or right, character." Trump opened his mouth to retort, but the moderator, sensing the moment, cut in to shift to policy. And yet the evening was just warming up. The moderator cleared her throat and turned to a more explosive topic. "Recent reports," she said carefully, "have raised questions about the handling of classified materials and what that means for national security. Would you care to weigh in?" The air thickened. Trump sat taller, bracing for a fight, but Obama moved first. "In any administration," he began, "there are strict rules about sensitive information. They are not suggestions. They protect our troops, our intelligence networks, our allies. I sat in countless briefings where a single misplaced document could mean a life lost. This is not paperwork. It is about safety." His tone was calm, deliberate, but the words hit like a gavel. Trump's fingers tapped the armrest. Obama went on. "When the public learns that materials were kept carelessly, whether in a home or a place they never belonged, faith in leadership corrodes. And when that faith corrodes, it damages not only the person responsible, but the entire nation." Trump lunged in. "Fake. Total fake. Those were my papers. I could declassify them by thinking about it. Everyone knows that. This is a witch hunt." Obama raised a hand politely, asking to continue. "Here's the truth," he said, sharper now. "I clash with my own team at times, but never did we believe the law could be bent at will. The oath you take does not yield to ego." The camera caught Trump rolling his eyes, muttering, "Spare me the lecture. People didn't like you. They like me." I'm the one in the chair. Obama's reply was firm. The office is not a popularity contest. It is an obligation. Gasps stirred the crowd. Scattered claps slipped through before producers hushed them. Across the country, veterans halls and student lounges reacted in real time. Some furious at Trump's deflections, others nodding at Obama's gravity. A woman in Washington state whispered, "That's why this matters. You don't play games with national security." The back and forth intensified. Trump jabbed again. "You did nothing in 8 years. Now you want to scold me?" Obama didn't blink. "What I did is written in history. What you do now shapes what's next. And right now, that future looks less secure because of reckless decisions." The line struck hard. Trump barked back, "Wrong. Totally wrong. We're safer than ever. My people love me. Nobody cares about documents. Nobody." But people did care. Across town halls and kitchens, the split in perception was vivid. Loyalists cheered his defiance. Critics pointed to Obama's patience as proof of steadiness. Undecided viewers felt the tug of two opposing visions of the presidency unfolding live. The moderator, trying to regain balance, steered on. But Obama had one more point to etch into the night. "Every president inherits messes," he said, "but the real test is whether you respect the office enough to rise above them. When you place your ego before the safety of the nation, you don't just fail a job, you betray a trust." The air in the studio felt heavy, and for the briefest instant, even Donald Trump seemed unsure of how to respond. He fiddled with his microphone, whispered something indistinct under his breath, then leaned back with his lips pressed tight. Everyone watching sensed the shift. The first real impact of the night had landed. Obama had not shouted, had not thrown insults. His weapon was composure, and it had cut deep. In homes across the nation, people turned to one another with hushed voices. "Did you hear that?" He said it directly, without flinching. The atmosphere had changed entirely. What had begun as a typical broadcast had turned into a clash, one that Trump now felt closing in around him. The conversation moved toward a subject that carried emotional weight far beyond policy charts and slogans. The military families. The moderator shuffled her notes, her glance darting between the two men as though anticipating a storm. Clearing her throat, she asked with deliberate care, "Former President Obama, you've spoken about responsibility and respect. Many Americans remember times when both of you addressed families who lost loved ones in service. What do you think is owed to them?" The room fell still. This wasn't a question about numbers or treaties. This was human. Obama placed his fingers together, his face reflecting a grave steadiness. "During my time in office," he began, "one of the most difficult duties I carried was meeting the families who had given this nation their sons and daughters. Gold Star families, men and women who had sacrificed everything. No sentence, no gesture, erases that ache. But what they deserve, without debate or hesitation, is honor." His voice lowered but reached farther because of it. Screens flickered in quiet living rooms. Even Trump shifted uneasily, staring at the moderator as if willing her to change the subject. But Obama pressed on, his tone unwavering. "I have stood on the tarmac in Dover, Delaware, watching flag-draped coffins return home. I have felt the grip of mothers and fathers whose strength had all but left them, clinging to a hand because that was all they had left to hold. In moments like those, there is no room for grandstanding, no place for pride, only reverence." A soft ripple passed through the studio. Cameras zoomed in on Trump's expression, his jaw tight, his eyes thin slits. He leaned forward and spoke into the microphone. "Nobody values our military more than I do. Nobody. I've done more for our veterans than anyone else. You can ask anybody." But the words, while loud, sounded rehearsed, defensive. Obama turned his head slightly toward him. "Respect," he said, "isn't something you declare. It's something you show." A stir of gasps, even a few claps, filled the space before producers gestured for quiet. Online, the moment was already spreading, captions flashing. Obama just dismantled Trump on respect. The moderator, her voice taut with anticipation, followed up. "Are you speaking in reference to the comments President Trump made about service members?" Obama paused, his expression unreadable, as though weighing whether to step further. Then he inclined his head. "Words matter," he said at last. "When families who have buried their children hear their sacrifice spoken of as though it were minor or meaningless, the wound deepens. Language can dishonor just as surely as any act. Trump's cheeks flamed crimson. He barked back. Those are fake stories. Lies. Twisted. I never said that. I'm the best ally the military ever had. His voice rose. But it only made Obama's steadiness more striking. Slogans, Obama replied softly, are not service. Compassion is. Being present for those families when they are at their lowest. That is the measure. And never, under any circumstances, should their grief be turned into a punchline. In a modest living room outside Cleveland, a father whose son had died overseas clenched his jaw, tears forming. Finally, he whispered to his wife. Someone said it to his face. In a crowded sports bar in Tucson, young veterans wearing ball caps shook their heads. You can't fake that, one muttered. You either have the heart for them, or you don't. Trump cut across the moderator again, voice sharp. I've done more for the troops than he ever did. I rebuilt the whole military. Everyone says so. The generals, the soldiers, everyone. Obama's response came quick, precise. True strength isn't only counted in ships or weapons. True strength is knowing when a moment calls for silence rather than self-praise. The room murmured. Viewers felt the weight. One man in Charlotte recorded a short clip for Instagram. My brother died in Afghanistan. Hearing Obama talk about those families gave me chills. Then hearing Trump brag right after, it made me sick. The clip spread rapidly, drawing thousands of comments, even some from typically conservative commentators who admitted, on live radio, whatever your politics, you can't deny the man knows how to express empathy. Trump showing his cracks tonight. Back in the studio, Trump's restlessness grew, his fingers drumming, shoulders tense. Obama remained almost motionless, as though rooted. Finally, Obama concluded the segment with a single sentence that carried the weight of a verdict. When you hold the role of commander-in-chief, you carry the memory of every fallen soldier with you. That duty is sacred, and if you cannot uphold it, you do not deserve to wear that title. The room held its breath. Applause would have been easier than the silence that followed. The moderator, speaking barely above a whisper, tried to move forward. Trump muttered something, half caught by his microphone. But the moment had already carved itself into the nation's memory. This was not about left or right. It was about character. And though the exchange was piercing, what followed would shake the stage even harder. The air was thick now, almost tangible. Trump's jaw clenched, his fingers beating a restless rhythm on the desk. Beads of sweat shone faintly under the harsh lights. The sense in the room was that the temperature was about to break. Obama remained exactly where he was, hands lightly resting, expression neutral, an anchor in the storm. The moderator attempted a transition. Let's turn now to national unity. But Trump sliced across her with a raised voice. No, we're not moving on. I'm not sitting here while Barack spreads lies about me. This is outrageous. The dam had cracked. His finger jabbed the air toward Obama, each sentence louder than the last. You act like you're perfect. Your administration spied on me, spied on this whole country. You ripped us apart more than anyone, and now you stand here and act holy? Spare me. The audience reacted audibly. Some cheers, some groans, a few claps of approval. The broadcast split screen captured it with cruel precision. Trump forward in his chair, face flushed, eyes blazing. Obama upright, unmoved, letting the outburst spend itself. The moderator raised a hand. Mr. President, please, but Trump waved her off. No, let me finish. People want the truth. Barack failed this nation. Weak on Russia, weak on China, weak everywhere. And now he wants to play the wise man. He's no hero. Obama finally spoke, the calm in his voice cutting like glass. Mr. President, shouting does not make something true. Laughter rippled through the room, half shock, half relief. Trump's face stiffened. For a beat, he looked caught off guard, then came back angrier. You're a fraud. Total fraud. People hated your policies. That's why I'm here. You can't stand it. Obama looked straight at him, not rising to match the heat. This is not about me. It's about the seat you hold. And every time you turn it into a personal grudge, every time you lash out instead of leading, the country bears the cost. The scene was electric. Trump's hands chopping the air, his voice climbing. Obama's tone steady. almost quiet. It felt less like debate and more like a lesson unfolding in front of millions. In Omaha, a husband muttered to his wife, "He's unraveling. You can see it." She nodded. And Obama knows exactly how to make him do it. In a Detroit barbershop, men crowded around a small TV. One chuckled. It's like watching a teacher handle a kid who keeps talking back. Obama's not even sweating. The storm surged higher. Trump half rose from his chair, voice booming. "This is a setup. They brought him here to attack me. Everyone can see it. Rigged, totally rigged." The moderator leaned in, her voice firm. "Mr. President, please keep your tone down." He ignored her, turning to the audience. "You see? They don't want me to speak. They never do. Obama is the worst thing that's ever happened to this country, and everyone knows it." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Some applause, some shock. Obama let the silence linger a moment, then offered the soft blow. When a leader is truly confident, he does not need to shout for people to believe him. It landed heavier than any yell could. The moderator quickly announced a brief break, hoping to cool the temperature. Cameras caught Trump pacing behind his chair, muttering to aides, his face red, his fists tight. Obama drank a sip of water, unmoved. And the moment did not fade when the lights went down. It jumped instantly to the platform Trump trusted most, his phone. The moment the commercial break started, he lunged for it. Advisors whispered, tried to slow him, but he waved them off. Thumbs hammering, he sent his fury into the ether before the program even resumed. Viewers scrolling Twitter saw it appear. Total ambush. Obama shows up unannounced to smear me. Fake town hall. Disgraceful. The post spread like spilled ink. Notifications buzzed in diners, dorms, airports. Some laughed. Others groaned. But everyone kept watching. Obama, by contrast, kept his phone untouched, his posture composed. Studio staff whispered. He looked as calm as he had all night, while Trump was still seething, fingers flying. By the time cameras came back, 4 more posts had been fired off. Obama failed the nation. Military loves me, not him. Rigged show. Sad. News anchors interrupted coverage to read them aloud in disbelief. In Boise, an older man shook his head over his phone. He's on stage, and he's still tweeting. In Madison, college students pass devices between them. He's live tweeting his own meltdown. One said, "Never seen anything like it." The moderator tried to turn back to policy, but Trump kept glancing at his buzzing screen, muttering, then blurting out, "You see the support? Millions backing me right now. Incredible support." Obama tilted his head, gaze steady. "Mr. President," he said quietly, "leadership isn't measured by how many messages you send. It's measured by what you do when the noise is loudest." Laughter mixed with applause. Cameras zoomed in on Trump's tightening grip around his phone. "I won't let him insult me," he bellowed. "I've done more than any president ever. People know it. The posts prove it." Obama adjusted his blazer, turned from him to the audience. "The world isn't watching our tweets. It's watching our example. And that example matters most when the pressure is highest." The line spread instantly, paired with screenshots of Trump's angry posts. Hashtags trended. #ComChaos and #ObamaTrumptonHall. Producers scrambled. Get the tweets on screen, side by side with the footage. Suddenly, the broadcast was 2 events at once. Obama's composed presence live, and Trump's digital eruption flashing across every phone. Even those loyal to Trump couldn't miss the stark difference unfolding in real time. One viewer remarked, "Look at Obama. He hasn't even touched his phone once." The optics told a louder story than any statement could. Supporters of Trump were divided. Some eagerly reposted his barrage of messages with slogans like "Keep fighting Trump" and "We stand with you," while others questioned openly in comment sections. Why is he tweeting while the event is happening? Shouldn't he focus on what's being asked? On the other side of the stage, Obama carried on without flinching, his delivery unhurried, his sentences deliberate, painting a picture of leadership built on restraint and measured words. The absence of his presence online became its own narrative, a counterpoint to Trump's flood of posts. Commentators on major networks played the moment side by side, Trump's outpour clashing with Obama's stillness. One analyst whispered during the live coverage, "It's like watching 2 completely different presidencies. One ruled by noise, the other by poise. The moderator shifted topics, but Trump's attention drifted between the room and the glowing screen on his desk. Microphones picked up fragments of his muttered frustrations. Unreal. Rigged. Total setup. And within minutes, that sound bite spread across platforms, feeding a growing perception that the president was losing his grip under pressure. To some, the spectacle was thrilling. To others, it was unsettling. In Kansas City, a mother texted her grown daughter, "I never cared for Obama much, but tonight he looks like the grown-up. Trump looks reckless." The daughter's reply came almost instantly. Exactly. By the close of that segment, the exchange had become bigger than the town hall itself. What began as a scheduled dialogue had evolved into a defining moment, one bouncing from living rooms to phone screens and back again. Obama, without ever raising his voice or sending a single post, turned restraint into his sharpest weapon. It cut deeper than any insult might have. Trump, meanwhile, had opened another front, his digital battlefield, and in doing so, exposed his own agitation for all to see. The evening was far from over, yet the consequences were already in motion. It was no longer just about two men on a stage. The entire country was reacting. Conversations flared in diners, homes, and classrooms as the broadcast continued. In Phoenix, where the event was held, the studio audience sat constrained by the no-clapping policy. But outside, hundreds gathered in a plaza where large screens broadcast the debate. Cheers erupted for Obama's measured remarks. Boos followed Trump's outbursts. News crews swarmed to record the pulse of the crowd. One young man wrapped in a flag admitted to a reporter, "I came here backing Trump, but honestly, Obama looks like the leader tonight." Elsewhere, in a small town bar in Kansas, the mood flipped. Farmers and factory workers leaned over pints, nodding along with Trump's defiant tone. "That's why I support him," one man said. "He doesn't let anyone talk down to him." His friend countered, "Yeah, but yelling isn't leading." Their discussion turned sharp, mirroring the national split. In a library in Portland, college students watched the town hall on a projector, scribbling notes for a class assignment that soon turned into a passionate exchange. "This is the exact leadership contrast we've been studying all semester," one remarked. Another added, "There's no contest here. One is steady. The other is unraveling." In retirement communities in Florida, groups gathered in shared spaces to watch. Veterans leaned in, their faces solemn, as Obama spoke of families who bore the weight of loss. A widow, her son killed in action, whispered to her neighbor, "He remembers that pain. That matters." Yet across the room, another woman folded her arms. "It's all a show," she scoffed. "Trump's just being real." The rift cut across generations, regions, even households. In a suburban kitchen in Indiana, a father and son argued while the broadcast played. "That calmness is weakness," the father said. "We need someone with fire." His son shot back, "No, that's what strength looks like. You don't need to yell to lead." Their voices rose as the television filled the silence. Online, the divide only deepened. TikTok swarmed with clips of Obama's composed moments labeled with phrases like masterclass and control. Meanwhile, Trump's fiery interruptions found their home on Facebook, hailed by supporters as proof of his fight. Two Americas, two screens, two realities. On MSNBC, hosts called Obama's remark about leadership not being about noise a defining line of the night. Fox commentators framed the whole affair as a setup, praising Trump for not backing down. CNN kept the split-screen image, Obama still, Trump typing, on rotation, an instant symbol of contrast. But the conversation wasn't confined to politics. It seeped into daily life. In an Albuquerque hospital waiting room, nurses and patients paused to watch. "This feels like more than politics," one nurse said quietly. "It feels like watching someone come apart on camera." An older man in a wheelchair replied, "Or maybe it's just what happens when you finally get called out." By midnight, reaction videos blanketed YouTube. Families gasping, veterans shaking their heads, young viewers laughing at the absurdity. Hashtags piled on. #ComShares, #Town Hall Showdown, #Trump Meltdown. Pollsters began their rounds. Early figures showed a striking pattern. Even among some Republican-leaning voters, many admitted Obama came across as more composed, more presidential. Trump's loyalists pushed back. At a rally the next day in Oklahoma, Supporters waved banners reading they're afraid of Trump. The energy was fiery. But even there, talk turned to the town hall. Sure, he was mad. One woman in a red cap said, "That's why I love him. He fights." Another attendee countered, "Maybe, but there's a difference between fighting and losing your cool." The nation was no longer debating policy points. It was dissecting demeanor, parsing body language, even counting how many times each man blinked. Late-night comedians weighed in too. One quipped, "It was like watching a meditation coach debate a guy in a wing-eating contest." The joke went viral because it captured what many had seen: calm against chaos. By sunrise, the event was no longer just a program. It was a cultural moment. Headlines blared. Obama steals the spotlight. Trump erupts. Networks looped the footage relentlessly. Analysts broke down Obama's phrase, "Real leadership doesn't shout," calling it the line of the night. Even conservative outlets, though defensive, couldn't avoid replaying it. Fox hosts bristled, calling the whole thing a trap. But they, too, aired Obama's pointed remarks about respect and service. Talk radio exploded. Callers sparred. One yelling, "He embarrassed Trump. That's a real leader right there." The next insisting, "It was theater. He's just polished." Trump fights. Social media churned on. TikTok stitched together dramatic montages. Twitter analyzed every flinch, every tweet. One viral post declared, "Obama didn't even raise his voice once. Trump raised his 100 times and lost anyway." Internationally, the contrast became headline news. European outlets framed it as a clash of temperaments. The adult in the room. One German paper called Obama. The BBC described it as a live test of character, not policy. Meanwhile, inside the White House, the fallout was chaos behind closed doors. Trump paced the residence in a robe, phone clutched tightly, screens flashing the same humiliating clips on loop. "They set me up," he barked to aides. Obama set me up. Advisors urged him to pivot, focus on the economy, move the narrative. He refused. "No, this was a hit job. I want everyone out there saying Obama's weak. Say he's corrupt. Say it now." Phones rang through the night. Senators, governors, surrogates were pressed to defend him. Some complied, appearing on sympathetic platforms to echo his fury. Privately, even his staunchest allies admitted the damage was severe. Across town, Obama entered his office late the next morning, gray suit, coffee in hand. "Let's stay quiet," he told his staff. No tweets, no statements. An aide asked, "Shouldn't we respond at least?" Obama shook his head. "No need." People saw it. That choice, silence, became its own story. While Trump called confidence in the middle of the night, replaying the moment where Obama calmly said, "Shouting doesn't make something true." Obama spent the following day meeting with educators about school programs. No cameras, no social media, just steady work. Inside Trump's circle, frustration boiled. He floated, holding a rally to overshadow the fallout. "I'll fill a stadium bigger than anything he's ever had," he fumed. Advisors, worn thin, tried to redirect him. One confidant later revealed Trump's regret. "I should have walked out. That would have shown strength." Staying there was the mistake. But by then, the image had set. A sitting president unraveling under bright lights, and a former one gaining authority without lifting a finger. In offices, cafes, bus stops, the conversation lingered. What mattered most wasn't a single policy promise or statistic. It was the contrast etched into memory. One man tweeting in fury, the other letting the moment speak for itself.